You make that top 5 draft pick, and you think you've just secured the next decade of your franchise. You watch the college tape, you see the jaw-dropping athleticism, the arm strength, the sheer physical dominance, and you immediately start envisioning Super Bowl runs. But what happens when that exact same player, the guy handpicked to be your savior, abruptly loses his grip on the offense, completely checks out mentally, and demands a one-way ticket out of town? Right now, we are watching a situation unfold that is sending absolute shockwaves through the league. We're witnessing the real-time unraveling of a former number 4 overall pick, drafted to rescue the Indianapolis Colts, who is now rapidly sliding into total irrelevance. The tension in the building is palpable. The consequences for this front office are massive. And honestly, the clock is ticking on a resolution. Let's dive right into this explainer and unpack exactly how a highly touted generational prospect hits the absolute bottom of the depth chart in the blink of an eye.
To really grasp the sheer gravity of this situation, you have to look at the two colliding realities currently clashing at the Grand Park Sports Campus in Westfield, Indiana. We are right in the thick of the 2026 Indianapolis Colts training camp, and it is playing out like a textbook example of a franchise trapped between two wildly different timelines. On one hand, you've got the haunting remnants of a failed quarterback experience. It's a timeline defined by frustration, stagnation, and broken promises. But on the very same practice field, you have a young, hungry, rapidly ascending core of players who are entirely ready to win football games right now. These two realities are actively slamming into each other every single day. The organization is desperately trying to build a legitimate championship contender, but they are dragging the dead weight of a quarterback who no longer wants to be there, and frankly, who the coaching staff can no longer trust to run the offense. It brilliantly and somewhat brutally illustrates the ruthless nature of the NFL. This league will not wait for you. If you stall out, the roster is just going to evolve right past you.
And that brings us directly to the bombshell that just completely shifted the landscape of this entire organization. Take a look at this verified report from NFL insider Evan Siddery. He states, the Colts have now demoted Anthony Richardson to third-string quarterback. Richardson has mightily regressed and appears to be completely checked out after requesting an offseason trade. I want you to really notice the specific language being used there. Demoted to third string. This isn't a veteran taking a rest day or dealing with arm fatigue. This is a former top 5 pick being actively and intentionally buried on the depth chart. We all remember when Richardson entered the league out of Florida. The hype was unbelievable. He was drafted to be the undisputed franchise guy. But 3 years later, his development hasn't just stalled out, it has actively moved backwards. Requesting an offseason trade is one thing, that happens. But showing up to training camp completely checked out when your team is in a critical evaluation phase, that absolutely forces the coaching staff's hand. The Colts cannot afford to let a disgruntled, underperforming player infect the momentum of a locker room that is absolutely desperate to compete.
Now, I want to pause here for a second and just let this number sink in. 15. That is the total number of starts Anthony Richardson has made over his first 3 seasons in the National Football League. Out of a possible 51 regular season games, he has taken the very first snap just 15 times. Injuries have absolutely devastated his ability to gain any sort of consistent on-field experience. And look, in this league, the only way a raw, physically gifted prospect actually refines his mechanics, speeds up his processing, and learns to read complex NFL defenses is through live game reps. You cannot learn this stuff standing on the sideline. Richardson has been denied that crucial development time. But here is the incredibly harsh reality that the Colts front office is staring down right now. Even when he has been fully healthy, the results have simply not been what anyone hoped for. You can totally excuse the lack of playing time due to bad injury luck, but you cannot excuse what happens when the player is actually on the field and fundamentally failing to execute the basic requirements of the quarterback position.
So let's look at the actual data. And spoiler alert, the numbers paint a very grim picture of where things stand. Over 3 years, Richardson is sitting on a 50.6% completion rate. Guys, in the modern pass-heavy NFL, completing barely half of your throws makes it functionally impossible to sustain drives. It exhausts your defense. He's thrown for just 2,400 passing yards with 11 touchdowns compared to 13 interceptions. He is literally giving the football to the other team more often than he is finding the end zone. But the statistical collapse is really only half the story here. The sources detailing care practices point to deeply concerning fundamental flaws that are persisting right now in 2026. We are talking about mishandled snaps. We are talking about wildly missing routine, wide-open throws to the flat. Yes, he still flashes that jaw-dropping highlight reel athleticism occasionally, but those massive inconsistencies far outweigh the highlight plays. His accuracy, his decision-making, and his ball security remain massive, massive liabilities. If you're an offensive play caller, predictability and trust are your oxygen. And right now, there is zero trust that this offense can operate smoothly with him under center.
That complete lack of trust has resulted in a massive structural shift for this football team. Just look at this newly established quarterback hierarchy. Daniel Jones has stepped in and taken the QB1 spot, providing a necessary veteran bridge presence. But look right below him at who is sitting at QB2, Riley Leonard. Anthony Richardson has officially been pushed to the absolute bottom of the barrel at QB3. This specific hierarchy builds a much larger narrative about accountability in that locker room. Why is Riley Leonard overtaking a former franchise savior? It's not because Leonard is some perfectly polished finished product. He's got plenty of refining to do himself, but Leonard offers many of the exact same mobility advantages that Richardson does, with one incredibly massive difference. Leonard actually looks comfortable operating within the structure of the offense. While Richardson is out there fumbling snaps and looking completely checked out, Leonard is capitalizing on the open door. He's proving to the coaching staff that he's actually worthy of moving up the depth chart. In the NFL, your draft pedigree only buys you so much runway. Eventually, the film has to do the talking, and right now, Leonard's practice film is simply better.
And this brings us to a huge defining pivot point for the entire franchise. The tragedy of Anthony Richardson's downfall is happening right alongside the rapid, team-saving emergence of the young 2025 draft class. It is the ultimate side-by-side contrast. On the left side of the practice field, you have the regression of a player who is supposed to be the face of the franchise. On the right side, you have a group of second-year players who are taking a massive, much-needed jump, and they are entirely changing the trajectory of this roster. Training camp is proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that this young core is brewing into something incredibly special. The Colts are no longer sitting around waiting on their quarterback to save them. They are actively empowering their defense and their offensive playmakers to take control of their own destiny. If you are a fan of this franchise, this is the massive silver lining that changes the whole mood of the season.
Leading that offensive charge is tight end Tyler Warren. Look, Warren was already a rookie Pro Bowler, which, if you follow the league closely, you know is incredibly rare for a rookie tight end to achieve. It's a notoriously difficult position to transition into from college. But the reports coming out of Westfield are that he has picked up exactly where he left off last season and then some. He's gone from rookie sensation to a legitimate, undisputed All-Pro candidate. Through the first chunk of camp practices, he is hauling in every single pass thrown in his direction. And you have to think about the larger roster context here. With Michael Pittman Jr. departing the team, there was a massive vacuum for a primary target in this passing attack. Warren isn't just stepping into that void, he's taking it over completely. He's poised for an absolutely massive second year. The Colts are betting big that Warren is going to be one of the premier pass-catching tight ends in the entire league, which fundamentally alters how defensive coordinators have to game plan against them on Sundays.
But this roster evolution isn't just happening on offense. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball, starting right in the trenches with Jalen Tuimoloau. Now, if you just lazily looked at the box score of his rookie season, you might be a little uninspired. 0 sacks, only 1 tackle for loss. But this perfectly illustrates why you have to look beyond the basic counting stats. In 2025, Tuimoloau actually registered the second-best pressure rate on the entire team. He was constantly living in the backfield and disrupting the pocket, even if he wasn't the guy officially finishing the play with a sack. Now, stepping into year 2, he is poised to take full advantage of a significantly increased workload. He's been flashing so consistently in camp that he is outright forcing his way into a true 50-50 rotation with veteran edge rusher Arden Key. This dynamic duo is going to be operating opposite of Laiatu Latu, creating a relentless, deep edge rushing rotation that is going to absolutely terrorize opposing offensive lines for all 4 quarters.
Moving into the secondary, we have a comeback story that is generating massive hype inside the building. Cornerback Justin Walley had a highly promising rookie campaign that was abruptly derailed by a devastating ACL tear. Coming back from a major knee injury like that is never a guarantee, especially for a perimeter defender whose entire game relies on explosive, sudden changes of direction. But the tape doesn't lie. Look at this verifiable praise straight from defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. Yeah, Justin Walley's picked up where he left off from last year. You know, I'm a big Walley fan. When your defensive coordinator goes out of his way to single you out to the press during camp, you are doing something very right. Walley has massive shoes to fill, stepping in as the replacement for Kenny Moore II, but he is stepping up to the plate and proving that there is absolutely no drop-off in talent or execution. He is playing like a seasoned, confident veteran, not a young guy tentatively coming off surgical rehab.
And we really need to zoom out and scale this up to understand just how good Walley has been. The Colts have assembled an insanely elite, star-studded secondary, featuring arguably the best lockdown corner in the game right now in Sauce Gardner, alongside Charvarius Ward Sr. To step onto the practice field with those guys means the standard is set impossibly high.
But the beat reports confirm that Wally is legitimately matching their level of play throughout training camp. He is looking like a locked-in, elite starting option, despite not even making his official regular season debut yet. For an opposing quarterback, this is a total nightmare scenario. Think about it. If you try to avoid throwing at Sauce Gardner, and you try to avoid throwing at Charvarius Ward Sr., you are forced to test Justin Wally. And right now, Wally is proving he can lock down his side of the field just as effectively as the established superstars. Where do you even throw the football against this unit?
Meanwhile, back in the trenches on the offensive side, the Colts are executing a pretty flawless succession plan. Jalen Travis is officially taking the reins at right tackle, stepping up to replace Braden Smith. Offensive line coach Tony Sperano Jr. has an incredible track record of developing raw talent in this league, and Travis is projecting to be his latest massive success story. After 5 really strong relief appearances as a rookie, Travis is now getting tested by absolute fire in training camp. And who is he battling every single day in these drills? The budding superstar pass rusher Laiatu Latu. Now, does Latu get the best of the young tackles sometimes? Of course he does. That's exactly what you'd expect in an intense camp battle. But Travis is holding his own and consistently keeping the rusher at bay. This kind of iron sharpens iron competition is exactly what builds a championship-caliber offensive line. Travis is showing he has the heavy anchor, the quick footwork, and most importantly, the mentality to take on a full-time starting role in this league.
Finally, let's touch upon the safety room, which has certainly seen its own share of adversity. Strong safety Hunter Wohler is another player battling back, returning from a brutal Lisfranc foot injury. Before a recent minor hamstring tweak sidelined him for a few practices, Wohler was running exclusively with the starters for the first 3 days of camp. And what became abundantly clear during that time is his absolute mastery of Lou Anarumo's highly complex defensive scheme. Consistency and football IQ are vital at the safety position. You are the last line of defense, the primary communicator of the entire secondary. The coaching staff has immense confidence in him because he rarely, if ever, makes mental errors. Once that hamstring heals up, he's fully expected to jump right back in and provide a stabilizing, highly intelligent force at the back of this incredibly fierce defense.
All of this brings us right back to the ultimate franchise-defining question. You have a championship-ready young core that is emerging before our very eyes. The tight end is an all-pro candidate. The pass rush is deep and violent. The secondary is matching elite standards. The offensive line is locking in. The window to win is wide open right now. So what on earth do they do with Anthony Richardson? A trade seems like the only logical outcome. A fresh start for a player whose development has completely stalled, and a chance for the Colts to salvage at least some draft capital. But here's the rub. If they can't find a trade partner for a checked-out third-string quarterback with massive accuracy issues, are they bold enough to simply cut their former number 4 overall pick before his 4th season even begins? It's a staggering thought, but when the rest of your roster is fully primed for a Super Bowl run, you literally cannot afford to have anchors weighing you down. What do you guys think the Colts will do? Let me know down in the comments. And as a quick reminder, this is NFL Nexus. If you want the most focused, in-depth explainers breaking down exactly what is happening across the league, make sure to subscribe, like this explainer, comment your opinion on the Richardson situation below, and support the channel by becoming a member. We'll see you next time as we continue to track the incredible storylines defining the NFL.